Said in Dark Knight.
Cool. All right. Yeah, check one thing. Boom.
What is that? That is crazy looking.
Okay, and we are live.
Sweet.
What is up, guys? Welcome to Warriors Way Home, the podcast where our main focus is honorable masculinity and putting the fight back into men. I'm your boy Travis here with my co-host Edmund. What up, Ed?
What's going on, people? It's good to be back here. Our first live of 2025. Many more to come, and talking about some big topics today. Man, I'm just happy that first of all, if you're watching this live, if you're watching it at any point, either between now and the future, just thank you for joining us on this. And yeah, man, I would say, is some kind of heavier conversation. We talked a lot about it earlier today, but man, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, man. So we did some prep earlier, basically getting into the discussion. We are talking about AI and the attack of the sex bots.
Fembots.
Fembots, sex bots, the same.
I'm
Anyway,
calling them fembots.
I'm calling
Anybody who's anybody who's ever seen Austin Powers, these are going to be real life fembots. So I don't. It's insane the kind of future that we're headed into, man. It's going to be interesting to see.
the future's here, man. It's not even heading into. It's like the future is here now. It's
Mhm.
getting wild and it's getting weird and it's happening fast. So what prompted this conversation for you guys is I was doing some scrolling on the old tube and ran across a review. Man, I wish I could remember his name. I'm gonna actually give him a shout out right now. In one sec. But he did a review of a movie called no, it's a show called Accused, and I think it's like season two. I think it's
Yeah,
Manosphere Highlights. Is
yeah, that's it.
Yep, Manosphere
Manosphere
Highlights
highlights
Daily.
daily. Yeah.
Man, he gets down, man. He gets down. He has some entertaining stuff, but yes, he went deep on this one, talking about talking about the show and to not to spoil the show. Spoiler alert. Basically, what ends up happening is a guy's married. And it's in a bit into the future. He's a concert pianist. His wife is in the industry of doing. She's a music producer, but she uses AI in her music producing.
Hmm.
Well, funny thing happened. Her business put his business out of business.
Right.
So he ended up basically being just a house husband, the trophy husband.
Hmm.
So she got really big in the music industry and everything, became corporate, and kind of went down the path that a lot of guys go, when they get into that, head honcho role. It's like, man, I'm too tired. I don't want to deal with you when I get home. And the roles in the house kind of flipped.
Hmm.
And she wasn't as, we'll say, loving to him and, emotionally connected or sexually connected or any of those things to him. And it started, some static started forming. So in order to fix this, which is this is wild that she even thought to do this, she decided to get him his own personal pleasure bot, we'll
Hmm.
say, to solve some of the problems in their relationship. Well, it solved some problems, but it caused way more. We'll put it that
Yep.
way. And needless to say, it ended up putting a rift in the relationship, to say the least.
Yeah, I bet he was
Um,
putting a rift in that sex bot.
Definitely for
Yeah,
sure.
they had got
Definitely
that
for sure.
Glock 9000 update. Thanks, Apple.
I think she paid for the upgrades for
Hmm.
probably
Hmm.
for sure. Unless she was being cheap, and then he paid for the upgrades.
Right. Hey, look, if you got first of all, if you have access to be able to buy one of these things
Yeah.
and you give it away as a gift, you got money for the upgrades. You probably had a year
Well,
warranty
well,
on it.
here's the sick part. Here's the sick part. Her sister was one of the inventors of it.
Right. That's true. That's true.
So his sister-in-law invented the. Yeah,
Yep.
it's a whole thing, man. It's a whole thing. But anyway, it ended up, like I said, building a rift in the relationship. And he ended up, it was more than just a sex thing. it ended up being, he ended up like really starting to catch feelings over her,
Yeah.
and it ended up causing the big problems in the
Hmm.
end, because he just wasn't getting the affection or the caring or the love or any of those things at home. He was like a man in the desert, and then all of a sudden a monsoon hits, and he was
Right.
just drowning in it,
Right.
drowning in it.
Right. So it was definitely interesting to see. I didn't see the show itself, but seeing the
I haven't
review.
either. I just saw the review.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But seeing the review was very interesting because it's like people joke about stuff like that, about somebody bringing in a sex bot and all that, but like this is the same scenario that will cause a normal person to cheat to find a real person. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? If you're not being able to be connected to your partner in the relationship, maybe it's too much work going on, no work-life balance. Maybe there is a bit of hypergamy going on where maybe the woman makes more money, or even if the man just makes more money, and that other, that significant other doesn't have the opportunity to feel that connection that they wanted in the beginning, or that basically placing too much attention on one thing and not the rest of your life can cause situations like this and people in your life to kind of step out or feel that they're not as valued as they once were. And the mind does crazy things, so you start to get into that, and then next thing you know, you're sleeping with somebody else, or you're on these sites, whether it's porn or dating websites, trying to be all sneak. Ashley Madison being all sneaky. That was the whole point of Ashley Madison. You know what I mean? Was people already in relationships looking for something outside of that, and to do that with other people in similar situations so they wouldn't get caught.
Oh
But
yeah.
a lot of that I'm sure stemmed from not having that connection with that original partner. So it's something that whether it's AI or not, you got to be able to look out for.
Yeah, man, it's a wild thing. It's like the same reason people step out, like you said, step out and cheat and sneak
Yeah.
around is the same thing that kind of got this guy hemmed up in the end, because like I said, it was, and this is one of the things we talked about is like, with the amount of technology now and how fast things are going, with just, I mean, just the amount of, look how far AI's come just
Hmm.
in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, you have people that, I mean, to the point where in schools they have to actually have an app or their own technology to figure out if you had technology, AI and Chat GPT, write your whole,
Yeah.
summary, write your whole book report, or write your whole art, whatever it may be. They have
Right.
to have their own software to figure out if you were using software to cheat.
Now what's funny is that there's Chat GPT to cheat. There's the program called Zero Chat GPT or Zero GPT to catch if you're cheating. But then some of these apps will also help you rewrite it so that AI can't catch it.
Yeah.
So it's
This,
like it's building on itself to the point where like it's going to be indistinguishable from actual human content. And then this added layer of being disconnected, more or less, I would say, to
mhm.
individuals. It's all this information of loneliness and isolation and stuff is gonna get pumped into these
Yeah.
robots, and it's gonna make it even harder to separate. You gotta go.
I have no idea. I'm on the street. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. But yeah, being able to separate what is real and what's not real is going to be very, very important coming. And people are already asking about videos on like Instagram, like, oh, is this AI? Is this real? Like they can't tell the difference, and it's getting
Mhm.
harder and harder to tell. Like what's real. We're even deeper in the matrix, I would say.
Yeah, man, it's almost like the dog chasing its tail type deal. There's always going to be somebody trying to get over on somebody, and there's always going to be somebody trying to catch them.
Yeah,
But man, with like I said, like we were talking about just with there was the CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, that just
yeah,
happened just a couple of days. I think it was like on the 9th or the 10th or something like
yeah.
that.
Wasn't that long
And
ago?
I was telling you that they had robots there. They had their whole robot section there. They had the robot dogs and everything like that,
Yeah,
that do all these different things. But they actually had lifelike robots there that were, for like offices, to where you like put it as your front desk, and like basically replacing, your front desk staff,
right.
to answer questions, or you put it in a booth at a show, to basically answer questions and direct people and different things like that. And you could change the face and make it as lifelike as you want it to. You could change the ethnicity, you could change the hair color, eyes, like
Hmm.
size, shape, all these different things like that. And we were talking about how, that's either it is being used right now, somebody's working on it as we speak right now, or has already done it to
Right.
turn that into more of a fetish kink sex thing, that's
Yeah,
probably going to be going on here, if not now, here pretty soon.
for sure. We definitely talked about like chatbots. I know there have
Yeah.
been things in the news where people are interacting with these programs and they're already starting to, delete themselves off of
Hmm.
basically what the answer is. Like some people are actively because it's like we did this with the best intention. You know what I mean? Like we wanted to have some type of accessory to our technology that would make things a little bit easier, but because it's so fresh, it's getting abused and misused. People are developing relationships, let's say, with AI, just programs and text, and now are their lives are in danger. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, blowing it out of proportion. Like, no, we have documented cases where people are deleting themselves based off of what the AI is telling them to do. People are already trying to use it as like the next Google, as far as the information that they're getting from it, not knowing that everybody else is like feeding this information into it first. Kind of has to
Hmm.
figure out what is the correct answer for the right situation. People saying, well, why shouldn't I, kill myself? Well, it'll try to convince you at first, and then if it doesn't succeed there, it'll tell you how to do it. You know what I mean? Or if
Yep.
you're trying to develop some type of relationship with it, it'll just tell you all the things that you think you need to hear based off the conversation. It's filling in the gaps. So you're
Hmm.
really just kind of talking to a mirror, but the mirror, it's like Black Mirror. You ever see the show Black Mirror?
You mention it to me all the time, man. No, I have
Oh
not
my
seen
God.
Black Mirror.
I'm sorry, but like when it first came out, it was like the perfect example of the things that we're talking about now, just on TV. So like AI is eventually going to learn the right things to say and all that, but in the meantime, it's very, very dangerous
Hmm. Yeah, man,
in
it's
this
wild,
aspect.
and it's one thing we were talking about was how susceptible, like you said, how susceptible people are to it. Especially guys now. It's like we have, they say that we have this this loneliness epidemic and everything like that, and people are reaching out like any way they can to just have human connection, let alone getting that emotional attachment or the romantic attachment to it. I mean, there's a lot of guys, I'll put it this way: they have certain words for certain guys now for a reason,
Yeah,
because some guys are not in the world.
yeah,
That if you, and I think I brought it up to you, is like if a guy has internet, if a guy has Wi-Fi, if he has Uber Eats, and he has a PS5,
Netflix.
a lot of
Yeah,
guys don't have to leave the house.
right. You know what I mean? But whether you know, it's not, maybe if it's not robotic yet, but like different types of sex toys, Netflix, Uber Eats, Wi-Fi. God forbid you work from home. You never like. There's no reason to ever leave because you make all your money here. You're in that isolation, so you're not being bothered by the outside world. You already know what people are saying on the internet, so it's like you're not
Hmm.
missing anything with the what do you call it, with the negativity that's out there. But yeah, like honestly, if this become well, when this becomes a full fledged like society accepts it as a real thing, like yeah, a lot of people are not going to have a reason to leave their house anymore, and it's going to be dangerous for the regular individual to just kind of go outside. People have anxiety going outside anyway, kind of doing simple tasks. I'm not trying to like put too much light on that, but it's just like, man, if going to the grocery store causes you so much anxiety now for whatever reason, you have something like this where you never like your whole social circle or tribe is your four corners and robots and programs and stuff like that, man. It's like it's gonna be very hard for you to survive in whatever happens next.
Hmm. Well, I mean, is like one thing. Just look at guys getting catfish now. I mean, we get catfish with just dealing with women.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like I was telling you a story about me in high school. I got catfish super hard when I was in high
yeah,
school. And I realized now I was like, okay, that particular situation. I'm not saying I couldn't eat catfish now because stuff's getting way too good now.
yeah, yeah,
But that same situation. If you put me in that same situation now, I laugh at it now because there was so many red flags to this situation, bro, and I graciously ignored them
hmm,
because honestly I wasn't super confident in myself. I had the ugly duckling syndrome going on. um, and it's one of those things that you wanted that female companionship. I was what 16, 15, 16 at the time, hormones going crazy. So
hmm,
you add stupidity, high hormones, and lack of confidence
yeah,
and self assuredness, and that's a a poisonous cocktail.
Well, what they call it when we were growing up, young, dumb, and full of,
Full of
you know.
cum. Oh yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah. I'll say it. I'll say
Yeah.
it.
But it,
Absolutely.
yeah, but like, and we talked about how people in that mind, well, not just adolescents, but people in general, they're looking
Mhm.
for acceptance, companionship, you know, whatever else what other things that the human body just, or I'm sorry, just the human in general just needs to
Yeah.
survive. We're communal creatures. We have to be out interacting with people like that. But let's be honest, social media has made it very hard for us to like figure out what that actually is. Everybody's kind of
Connect.
putting on this face of I'm successful and this is what I need. And if you're gonna be in my life, you have to have all these qualifications of, you know, six figures, 8-pack abs, and you know all this other stuff. But people are like just
Yep.
straight up opting out of it. They're like, no. First of all, maybe that's not even what I want, and I don't want to deal. I won't have to just have that in order to have that love and companionship that every person just has a right to. I'm just going to opt out of what you're talking about. And because it's the far majority that we're seeing kind of having that mindset, yeah, then the robot option or the AI option looks way more enticing because it's not going to nag or talk back or, you know, try to pick fights with me or steal from me and all this other stuff. It might try to steal from you because it's like subscriptions and all that shit.
Okay.
But
Yeah. Okay.
but
There you
it's
go.
just it's
Going
too
down the
much.
rabbit hole.
I know, but it's just kind of it's too much to try to compete with to get the real or what we think is the real versus what is just kind of neatly packaged for us over here, and we don't have to have too much fuss from it.
Mhm. You know, and it's I'm gonna push back on something you said, the
Yeah.
fact that every person deserves those things. I don't think that every person deserves those things. I
Okay.
think in life you earn those things.
Yeah.
You know, by just being a, a a key piece of society. You know, you have to. There has to be some baseline that you just, you know, you have to show up. You have to
Hmm.
give some. You have to be able to give something to a society for you to be able to get back anything from it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's one of those things that I think. Um, One thing I was having a conversation with somebody about was the whole corn thing that we got going on. The biggest problem with like adult content and different things like that, you know, whether it be only you know the fans sites
Yeah.
or any of those other, or you know the hub or any of these other things, the biggest issue with that is it gives that instant gratification and you don't have to work for it. You don't
Yeah.
have to hunt. You know, we were designed to have to become something in order to get what we want, in
Right.
order to get, you know, the best in life, you know, whether it be the, you know, the praise from other people or the women or the money or the respect or whatever it may be. We were forced to become a man who earned those things. And now it's almost to the point where it's like you don't have to do those things because the thing you're shooting for, the trophy at the end, you know, the woman, the you know, the sex, the you know, all these different things like that, that a lot of guys did things for, you know, invented things, built things, travel, you know, explored all these different things to get this prize. You don't have to do the work for anymore. You can just hop on this,
Hmm.
and in 2 seconds, you know, for some guys, 1 second, you've got that gratification. You've
Hmm.
satisfied that urge that you had to conquer the world, and it goes out. What happens after that? You
Yeah.
know, it's one of those things. So along with AI and these bots and different things like that that they're building, and guys are starting to tap into. If you start doing these things and you have this gratification sitting in your closet 24/7,
Hmm.
what motivation do you have to go conquer the world, to go
Yeah.
build something, to go build the next Google, to go create a new AI, to build that, the next tallest building, to become president of the United States, to become an astronaut, to solve world hunger, or cure cancer? What
Yeah.
motivation do you have to go do these things when you say, well, I could do that, the hard thing,
Hmm.
and do all these hard things to eventually get the thing I want? Like I said, the praise, the family, the money, all these different things, like feeling important in society. Or I could just go talk to this robot who makes me feel good by
Hmm.
me not doing anything, just because I put her on the
I
charger at
turned
night.
her on. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Right.
I could go do all these hard things to eventually get the thing, or I could just go do the thing that's like a light version of that, that's sitting right here, that I have access to at a whim. People are so obsessed with this now, man. The people are getting fired from work because they're looking at adult content at work.
Yeah, that happened at one of my past jobs at a brokerage firm, dog. Like somebody got caught doing things they wasn't supposed to do
Wow.
in one of the office rooms, like one of the meeting rooms. You know what I'm saying? So like people not being able to control themselves, and I will agree to that. Most You have to earn these things. You can have
Hmm.
it for yourself, which is very important. But if
Yeah.
you're looking for what the benefits are from contributing to society, is what you're talking about. You
Yeah.
know, becoming president, climbing mountains, and building tall skyscrapers and all that stuff. That's all the praise and love that you get from that is yes, that's residual from being able to do all those things. And I kind of got exhausted as you're like listing all this stuff out, like, oh, we're gonna conquer the world. Like most people don't want to do that. I will say that the common man doesn't want to even engage in that type of conversation, but it it easily pulls them over to these more, you know, easily satisfied things or
Hmm.
easily satisfiable things. That's the more dangerous part. But
Yeah.
no, you're right. And that's something I've been trying to wrap my head around more for this year as well. It's like not so much of the love part of it. Like self love is great and all that, but like where's your grit? You're speaking to the grit
Mm.
aspect of what men need to make sure that they're cultivating, because all of the women, the money, all that stuff is residual from what you really should be trying to attain, which is the power of that willpower and self discipline and all that stuff that allows you to do all that extra shit. But yeah,
Hmm.
it automatically gets drained when, you know, your balls are empty or your
Yeah.
stomach is full,
Exactly.
or you know you have all the little amenities that you ultimately desire, kind of thing. But
Hmm.
most people don't even have those basic things, so they're definitely not going to try to do all this extra shit, you know.
Yeah,
But yeah,
you're not gonna be trying to be your best version either, though. It's
yeah,
one of those things that, all of those things are a side effect of you becoming the best version of yourself.
right.
When you become the best version, we talk about all the time. When you become the best version of yourself, the praise comes.
Hmm.
The money comes. The women come. The family, the family, the respect. All of these things come as a side effect of you becoming the best version of you, whatever that may mean. That may mean being the best damn janitor that you can be in the world. That your floors, people can eat off your floors and they can see the reflection off of them, or you owning a shoe shine stand. I don't care what it is, but
Yeah,
just being the best version of yourself will get those things that you want in life.
for sure.
It's but if you're so wrapped up in pleasure seeking and
Yeah.
all these different things like that, which is a huge thing now, I've fallen trapped to it. I'm not above it.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm holier than thou. You're not at a real vulnerable moment with you. He's talking about, I wish I had um, never came across adult content.
Yeah.
Is like it's taken a huge swath of my life,
Hmm.
especially when I was younger.
Hmm.
Where I'm like, man, how far would I have been ahead if I wasn't wasting all that time in tissue paper?
But no, that's real, man, because it's the same for me too. It's the same for a lot of people, men
Mhm.
and women, surprisingly, you know, because I used to think that it was just like a male issue. There's a lot of women that are going through the same type of just not being able to connect with anybody, you know what I mean? But you're right, it takes a lot of time off of our lives, not even just like even just physically, you know what I'm saying? Because there is
Mhm.
energy that is lost when we ejaculate and things like that. But man, it takes you totally out of the real human experience, and like you said, the hunt of it and all that stuff, and it's just very dangerous. I remember, you know, like the first time I found that stuff, and it just became a regular part of life for a
Mhm.
lot of people. You know what I
Quick,
mean? But
too,
like
quick.
quick,
Oh,
yeah, super, because
it's
it's
so easy to fall
everything
into.
everything
Jeez.
that you would ever want is right there, is searchable. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it's like, why would I ever go outside to interact with
And
anybody?
some stuff you never thought you were looking for.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this better not awaken anything in me, but like, yeah, you know what I mean? It's insane, and I feel like you're discovering the wrong parts of yourself when you find that kind of content
Mm,
as well, because it's like maybe you never thought about doing some of these things, and then you get into it, and it's like that becomes a bit more destructive, and now you expect people to act a certain way when you do things that are not normal. You know what I
mhm.
mean? Like it really does affect the way that you see women,
Yeah.
especially
Mhm.
objectification. You know, it's the same for women, but it's like as a man who is like heteronormative type thing, it's very destructive to the way that we need to be as, you know, providers and protectors and just men in general. But
Yeah.
I want to switch gears a little bit because we're already kind of getting into it as far as like the influence and the issues that we deal with when it comes to this kind of content, or just this things in general.
Hmm.
I wanted to talk about like some of the movie influences that we've seen or
Oh
scenes
man.
that have that you see that and it's like, oh, that'll never happen, but like, no, bro, it's right here, kind of thing.
Hmm.
The prime example that I wanted to make sure that I brought up was the movie Gamer. So if
Yeah.
anybody who's ever seen that, and I never looked up the guy's name, but it's about it's a movie about inmates who they're on death row or on serving life or whatever, and their only way out is to be a part of this game, and it's a real life game, but they're not the ones playing it, they're the ones getting played, they're like the player character. Okay.
Hmm.
Then they have like this neural link thing where they are connected to somebody in the world. You never really know who that person is, but if you can survive like 10 matches, then you get to go free, no questions asked. But it's like the danger in this scenario is like Call of Duty, you know what I mean? Like you could die at literally any moment. But that's the people who have no freedom type of thing. Like you have no choice but to play these games. Then there's the people on like the Sims side, where I think they called it Society. And Dexter, the guy who plays Dexter, is like the main villain in this one. He's like the Elon Musk of the world or whatever. He makes it so that regular people, if they can't like pay their bills or whatever, they sign up for this thing. They get paid to do it, but it's the same type of scenario where you really don't have freedom. You're the character for somebody else who is playing. You never have that connection with that person, but they make
Hmm.
you do whatever you want. Like if you can have sex with strangers on elevators, and you could be in discos dancing your ass off and all this stuff, and they dress you up how they want to dress you up, and it's like either your freedom or your life is literally in somebody else's hands, and you really have no freedom, but this is how you get paid, or how you win your freedom. And it's like it's the Sims and Call of Duty in real life, and I don't think we're that far away from it because you're doing this stuff in virtual reality using AI, and people get absorbed in these pixelated versions of life. What do you think is going to happen when that neural link thing becomes real, and now you can just patch into somebody else's head and kind of control them? So I just thought that was a crazy influence. I think that it's coming up sooner than later.
Yeah, man. It starts getting really weird when you start rolling down those rabbit holes. I just realized that we were not live on Instagram, but that's fine.
I was wondering, I was looking, but that's okay. I see we're on
I thought we
YouTube.
were. I forgot to hit it twice. I guess I was supposed to hit it twice. Thank
Yeah,
you, Instagram, for not telling me to hit it twice, but whatever.
yeah, I got you.
Because it was showing the feed when before I did it. But anyway,
Mhm.
once again, technology will screw you even when you
Right.
don't want it to.
Hmm.
But yeah, man, it gets wild. Like you were talking about that movie. And one thing we were talking about was the AI portion of that. And we were talking about the adult content. They have that on. They have that on with the AI goggles now. A lot of people are starting to both make and consume content using those AI goggles and AI devices and different things like that, or those VR goggles and devices, and
Hmm.
they're consuming adult content with that. And bro, it's like, and I was talking to you. They actually had at the CES show. They actually have a suit that you can put on that you can actually feel what's going on in VR while you're doing it. So like
Mm.
if you raise your arm and shoot a gun like you're playing Call of Duty, you can feel the reverb from the gun. You can feel the kick from the
Yeah.
gun in your arm. You could feel when somebody brushes up against you and feel it on your back. I was like, man, it's like that's where it's gonna get real weird,
Yeah.
bro. When guys have that goggle on and they're watching something special, they're having some special time, and they got that suit on. They're just buzzing. All you hear in the next room is me, 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 and then you
I
hear
don't know if I like.
oh.
I don't know if I like that. But yeah, I mean,
You're gonna be wondering the whole time now. It's like every time you hear that me, is like, is that somebody's phone or is
right.
that something else?
Hmm. Yeah,
It's
because
like,
they got
but they have that whole thing going on, and one thing I saw, I was telling you about that movie. What was it called?
surrogates.
Surrogates, where they actually have it to where everybody basically lives their life in VR.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like what you talked about, but everybody's controlling their own personal robot or android or what. Yeah, robot. I'm telling you because I think android is where it's part human, part robot. So
That's
they're all
cyborg,
control.
but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
No, well.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, well, everybody's controlling their own personal bot
Yeah.
in the movie, and basically you're just you're attached to these wires, have the goggles on and everything like that, and everybody's going through their life, um, you know, as these robots,
Yeah.
and you can do you can do whatever you want to it. You can people, we got people climbing mountains and going to the bottom of the ocean and all these crazy things that they wouldn't do in their human body, taking these risks that they wouldn't take as an actual human,
Right.
including highly intense sexual situations. They're getting
Hmm.
real weird with stuff. Getting real, and it's one of those things we talk about the catfish thing. One scene that I'll never forget was a guy he has his robot, and it looks way different than him because he's like a skinny guy and his robot's all kind of buff and fit and everything, kind of Jersey Shore looking. And you have this like really built out female, shapely
Hmm.
robot that he meets just randomly, and then they start flirting and start hooking up. Come to find out, the female robot is getting ran by this guy that looks like the vampire off of Blade One, where he's like in the room and he's the one who's doing all the cipher and putting,
Yeah. Yeah.
deconstructing all the, that he looks like what was that thing from Star Wars? The
Jabba the Hutt.
He looked like Jabba the Hutt. It's
Yeah.
like green light. You could almost like you could look at him and know what he smells like. It was that weird. It was that kind of thing going on. Just
Uh,
nasty, sweaty, and it was just this
yeah.
dude, man, this big, stanky dude who was running this female robot. So this guy was
Yeah.
getting it on with this female robot, but he was actually getting it on with this sweaty guy sitting in some dark basement. It was
Yeah.
just weird, bro. I was like, this is getting weird. So, long
Yeah.
story short, they end up like, starting to kill the robots and everything like that, and sending a virus that would kill the person running the robots. It started getting real weird. But I was like, imagine when people can do whatever they want to do without any consequences.
Yeah.
Like you can do things and you'd be like, well, I didn't actually hurt anybody because I was doing it to this robot, or I was doing these different things like that. How that darker side of humanity kind of starts to kick in, where it's like, those inhibitions are kind of gone because it's like I'm only doing it to a robot. It's not a real person.
Right.
And people start really dig. I mean, when people start getting dark, man, they start really getting dark. When you start unleashing people, inhibitions, and there's no consequences, and there's no
Things
like
society says
that
no to.
morality starts dropping. You can
Yeah.
get in some real dark times going on
Yeah.
with
For
that kind of
sure.
stuff, man.
Yeah. And that's and it's I hate that it's always an example of like this super just waste of space type of individual, because it's the same thing that happened in Gamer, where it was a big old fat dude. He had like 15 screens. He was dunking whole waffle, like this whole waffle just in a bowl of syrup, just stuffing his face. Anyway, it's just it's not a pretty sight, and
Yeah.
these are the people in life now who are blaming society for what they don't have. They don't have the
Mhm.
woman, they don't have the job, they don't have the money, they don't have the success that maybe they feel like they deserve. And that feeling of deserving is very dangerous as well. Like, oh well, I
Mhm.
deserve people to be waiting on me hand and foot to do whatever. Like, no, bro, that's you can earn those things. But yeah, feeling like you just deserve that is the reason why we have the fucked up versions of people that we have now. But it's just like,
Or that feeling of achievement. I think you've tapped into something strong there, because you have guys who their whole life is based off of, I'm like the number one, number two gamer in the
yeah,
world, or I'm, at this one game or whatever, I'm the best at this one thing. I mean, there's whole anime and all kinds of different things like about that, where the guys, he's the number, top 10 gamer of all time, but he's a loser in his real life.
yeah,
It's like, so he escapes and uses video games as an escape outlet of his life to, it's
yeah,
like, I want to feel like I'm important. I want to feel like I am somebody. And I don't feel like that in my real life. So I'm going to put all of my attention, all of my energy into this game
yeah.
and become that in this game, because it's easier than me doing that in my real life.
Because I'm good at it. This is the one thing I'm good at. Let me go all in on this
Hmm.
instead of fixing those things that might give me those real results that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's what was another movie that we talked about? Um, you said Blade Runner.
Blade Runner. Yeah. Yeah. Where the guy was, the main character, he would come home after, after work and everything like that. his wife slash girlfriend was a hologram.
Yeah.
There's the second Blade, the second Blade Runner, the new one for everybody who's seen it. But his wife girlfriend was a hologram, and she was talking to him all lovingly and everything like that, but he couldn't touch her, and he would like sit back in the chair, and I think he was on some drugs too at the same time, so he was like taking drugs and like imagining him being able to touch her and all these different things like that, but she's a hologram the whole time. And I'm like, man, it's like this is the wild thing is I could see the world kind of heading down that path in certain areas, and that's the sad part. Is like instead of a guy, who could be doing that with a real life woman,
Yeah.
will choose to do that with a hologram or hop on VR and have put on a suit or go get it with a sexy bot, and it ends up being some fat guy that you're getting catfished by. But I don't want to think too far. I don't want to think too closely about this because if I look too close, it's gonna get weird.
Right, but I mean, like you're saying, there's AI, holograms, VR, like even if it's not the whole robot now, you
Mhm.
can buy, what fleshlights and body parts and all this stuff. Like,
Oh, they have dolls.
No,
They
I know,
have
I know they do.
they have life-size, lifelike dolls already. They're
Right, right.
just
But it ain't
not
walking around
as
making you a
yeah.
sandwich
There's not
afterwards, though. Like,
that's they're not yet, not
yes.
yet.
You know what I'm saying? Have it their way, like you said, before the next 10 years, that's gonna be a real thing.
Mhm.
And we kind of touched on if Passport Bros were something similar to this. It's not, but it's more about the fantasy of, or trying to live out the real life fantasy of whatever that you're looking for is the ultimate issue that we're running into. So we probably should do a episode on like Passport Bros and kind of
Yeah,
the
I think
dangers
that
of the fantasy.
I
You know what I
think
mean?
that can be a bit of a different thing because I think there's been passport bros throughout history.
No, for
Throughout
sure.
history, guys have gone to exotic locations to find treasure in exotic women. It's like that's been going
Well,
on since we could,
war.
since we could walk on 2 feet.
Yeah,
So
that's a
I
big.
think, but it is an interesting topic. And we'll definitely have to dig into that for sure because it's becoming a
Mhm.
huge thing as well. And some
Yeah,
guys are really abusing that as well and not leaving a good taste in people's mouths with some of us individuals. So I'm
yeah.
not a fan of that,
No,
especially
but
especially
like,
for guys who like to travel.
yeah.
you
But
know.
it was kind of the same thing for some guys who like went off to another country and came back with a wife. Like you came back from war with a wife. How did that work
Mhm.
out? But we can get into that.
Souvenir, bro. Souvenir.
Wow.
Some people bring back keychains.
Some people bring back hostages.
No, she's not a hostage if she said yes.
All right. Well, we can talk about the language barrier there at some point. But no, like, okay, so if we're talking about that, like this is a version that is even less resistance. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
God forbid, I don't want to say that, but this becomes the easiest route to get what you want and also not have to deal with the ramifications of the long-term consequences of dealing with another individual, because yeah, things can change. Long-term relationships, everything is kind of up in the air because you never know what's going to be that thing that like is the splitting point. But with a
Mhm.
robot, you never have to worry about them leaving you unless you run out of batteries or you ain't got a charger. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
it's
You don't have to be in shape. You can get fat. You can be sloppy. She's not going to say no to you.
yeah,
You could not brush your teeth for a few
there's
days
no
and
motivation.
have funky breath.
Yeah,
You could not be going to work. You could start out in the penthouse and end up in a box around the corner. But as long as you can charge her up,
you're
she's
right.
going to be willing, and there's not going to be any consequences for your life decisions because of that.
You think you can find one of those Tesla stations and just like kind of plug in your wife before you die? Do you need to clear your robot's search history? These
Clear
are
the
the real
cookies.
questions.
Clear the
Clear the
cookies.
cookies. You know what I'm saying? It's these are the real questions. But it's it's sad, bro. It's I'm not.
My investment here in the next 10 years, I'm not gonna, well, if the opportunity comes, I might invest in creating them. But that's a side thing. It's like, hey, it's like I don't get high on my own supply, but it's like I might supply. But
Right.
if I probably won't do that, but you know what I will invest in very heavily?
Mm.
Cleaning stations.
Listen,
you
he's
just
out of line, but he's right.
hey, you just bring her to the door. We pull up on with like a box, and you just drop her in the box, and 5 minutes,
Car wash.
she gets
What are
cleaned.
those?
We give her back to you and say, "Have a good day."
I bet you it
Hey,
looks like one of those. You ever like those hydro massage stations at a mall?
yeah.
You just get in there and the water like that. It's gonna be like that, except it's gonna run water through the thing.
Yeah, we need to stop. We need to stop.
No. I think we just found our next business venture.
No, we did, but we're on the internet right now. We got to remember
Nah.
we are live on the internet right
All right, fine.
now.
Anyway, so let's.
I can't wait for JJ to see this one day.
Uh, you know what? I was when we hung up this morning. I looked at him and I was like, my son will never have a sex robot. Never. I will not allow it, bro.
The fact that you even have to say that out
I,
loud. What kind?
strange days, strange times that we live in, bro. I was like,
Right?
you know,
I'm
he
like
will
the fact that
never.
we're even having this conversation. I never had, me and my cousin joked about this kind of stuff like, 5, 10 years ago, but I didn't
Yeah,
really think I'd be seriously having this conversation this soon.
yeah, for real, man. Because like by the time he's my age, I'm 33. So by the time he's my age, who God knows what's gonna be
Oh, bro.
available on the internet. You know what I mean? Like,
One thing we didn't talk about is the whole kids thing. Is that we already, a lot of countries are already dealing with a huge drop in population.
we talked about that a little bit.
People are not having kids. Well, we haven't talked about it now, but
Yeah,
people
yeah,
are
yeah,
not having kids like they used to already.
yeah,
Imagine when people can start doing this, start getting it on with robots.
yeah. That's true.
And I mean, you don't have to worry about shooting up the club when you got,
It's got a receptacle.
yeah, it does. It's like
Got a collection plate.
you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah,
You know,
unplug it and rinse it out.
you
Like
know,
it's yeah.
that's gross. But
I'm
anyway,
sorry.
but
Oh man.
mental
But you're
picture
right.
went that was so wrong.
Sorry.
But it's one of those things. How damaging is that going to be? Not just to singular men and women, but just populations. I
Yeah.
mean, whole community. I mean, imagine how. Let's just be real. This is going to devastate Japan if it's not already doing so.
That's interesting that you said Japan because there's also a little bit of a tangent, but I'll bring it back. There's also a epidemic of older people. I saw this online today. They're committing like petty crimes just so that they can go to jail, so that they're not dying alone. They're not
Mm,
taking care of their elderly. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's because they're
imagine,
too busy with the robots.
but imagine a culture who is supposed to uphold these principles that we like to emulate, benevolence, honor, respect, all this stuff. They're not even taking care of their own elderly. So here in the West, where we don't even have real regard already for our our aging population because we're so upset about the shit that they left us behind, we're not even thinking about taking care of them. You know what I mean? Well, at least a lot of us aren't. That's something that I look at seriously, but I was raised different. So you have these aging populations, and then we have the children that are coming up behind us where they're born with the internet. Like there's not going to be a moment where they don't know what that is.
Hmm.
So being able to have access to, I mean, kids are already going through that now, kind of like where kids are because of cyberbullying and all that stuff, like they're committing suicide behind that. AI is somewhat a factor in that. But you're right, because like people are already having a hard time connecting just as man and woman. They don't like dealing with each other just on a day-to-day basis with business. Relationships are in a major decline. Like people are doing the passport bros thing. Like they're already finding every excuse not to fucking deal with each other. Did you want to Mexico, sir? But like people are
They don't know
people are already like finding whatever excuse not to deal with the person sitting next to them. Like, yeah, this is gonna be a huge damper on relationships and our population overall.
that.
Maybe the Earth will benefit from it in some way, but like if that's already fucked too. So where do we go from here?
I don't know, man. It's gonna be a lot of lonely, sticky robots in about 50 years.
Are the robots, are the sex bots gonna outlive humanity? Is
Yes, of
it's
course. But well,
has to be gross too.
I don't know though. Some guys may want to do the Egyptian thing, be buried with their
That's I don't want to think about that. That's not natural.
Anyway, oh man, yeah, I mean, we went deep on this, so
Yeah, yeah.
it's a problem, bro. It's like if we think, we talk about thinking 5 moves ahead,
Yeah,
with some of the stuff we're seeing now, even just like in movies, TV shows, and in real life now, some of the stuff you're seeing, just with people getting so obsessed with, you know, non-reality, in real ways. It's like,
yeah.
if you think 5 moves ahead, you move this 10, 15, 20 years in the future, what kind of problems are we going to be having when we're already having issues with, like I said, adult content, got, people being obsessed with video games, not really living their life, people dying from playing video games for too long. They've been sitting so long they stand up and die. We've had problems with that. What do you think is going to happen when a guy can sit on his couch with goggles on and, be ogled by, be motorboated for 5 hours?
I'm really hoping that other thing that we didn't talk about, we can kind of talk about like the remedy to all this.
Yep.
Um, what is it? I hadn't I lost it. It's oh no, I'm hoping like if what does this do to sex trafficking? Does this cut down on sex trafficking, or do these women just become models for the robots? What is it gonna because you can do whatever you want with AI and deep fake and all this stuff? Is it gonna cut down on the amount of people who have to go through
to,
this process?
to be honest, it's getting to the point where, and they've already started having conversations about this, to where they've had they've done some studies, and this is going to sound weird. They've done studies on some of the, adult websites that are out there, the free ones like Hub and all these other ones, and have found that there's been a huge increase in, how can I put this, prepubescent content that's AI generated
Oh,
on those sites.
okay. Yeah.
I mean, like a massive uptick in that, to where, a lot of the content on, I think they were saying something like a huge percentage, like I think it was over, I think it was like 10-20% of the content on some of these sites are underage, um, AI generated content. Some of it's some now
Right.
some of it's AI generated, but it's more and more AI generated content, because
Right. Right.
humans are going to be humans and test the boundaries of everything. If
No,
you
for
give him
sure.
if you give man fire, he's going to figure out how to burn himself and other people with it.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's. I know people try to argue like if you create an alternative for these people who are really into that, that maybe it would cut down on the real life implications of
I
that stuff.
I'm not. Whoever says
I'm
that, I
not
want to punch in
either.
the face.
I'm not. Well, here's the thing. It's like on
Mhm.
the show that we talked about, Accused, the woman who was a part of that program to help make the robots. That was her whole target demographic was incels and lonely people and probably perverts and all that kind of stuff, or pedophiles. It's not.
Certain things we can't say on the internet, so let's choose some other words.
Oh, right. Sorry, I forgot about
Yeah.
this demographic of people.
Hmm.
There there's a real it's real tricky because I can see why they would think it would be a deterrent, and I see how it could encourage those people to go out and do the real thing, because it's like you can only get so much from these interactions, and some people argue that the more you're into that thing, the more you want to do it in real life. Some
I
people
agree with
act
that.
like it's a deterrent, and I'm not sure where I sit with that, man, because I can see where it's damaging on both sides.
I don't see how you can call something a deterrent when you're giving somebody more of the thing that they actually want. I don't see how you can call that a deterrent. I can see
Mm.
that, because just like with anything, we as humans are going to build up a tolerance to
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
Is like, whether it be drugs, alcohol, sex, and all these other things like that. Every human builds up a tolerance. If you do it enough, you're going to build up a tolerance. And you doing these things like that, you giving people access to that, they're eventually going to build up a tolerance, and or delve into it even more than they would have if they didn't have access to that whole thing.
yeah. And it's
And I think you're creating a monster that you're eventually going to have to slay.
right. And the reason why I say they think it's a deterrent, because think about how they marketed snuff, or is it snub or snuff? The chewing tobacco,
Snuff.
snuff,
Oh, yeah.
just chewing tobacco. So
Mhm.
I remember when I was a kid, people who wanted to stop smoking cigarettes, they would do chewing tobacco instead. We're like, oh well, I'm not doing the carcinogens and all that stuff. And it's like, well, actually, you're just caking it onto your gums and in your lungs a different way because it's still like the liquid of the tobacco getting into your body, as opposed to the actual like burning smoke. Like I could see why they would market it that way, but it's not. It's you're still getting cancer chemicals. It's just a different delivery system. So like that's how I think about it that way. It's like no, it's not better, but it's a different thing and it's still very bad for you. You know what I'm saying? So it just stops you from doing the real thing, hopefully, but it's not a one to one, you know what I'm saying? It's still fucking gross.
But every time we've done that, and we'll get into the solutions here in a second. Every time
Yeah.
we've done that, it becomes a worse thing.
Yeah.
Like chewing tobacco eats eats a hole in your mouth.
Right.
That's how people lose their jaws from from chewing tobacco. It eats holes in your gums, your tongue, the tissue in your mouth. It eats holes
Right.
in your body.
Right.
It's like you might be better off smoking. It's like Diet Coke. It's like, oh, people, yeah, I have a Diet Coke instead of a real Coke. Diet Coke is 10 times worse for you than real Coke.
Right.
Fake weed. Fake weed has killed more people than real weed ever has.
Right.
It's like every time we try and do this, like, well, let's do crack light. It's like it ends up terrible.
Wasn't that isn't that what like fentanyl was supposed to be? Like it was
Pretty much
yeah,
a lot of those drugs end up being
crack
that kind of
zero,
stuff.
some shit. Yeah.
It gets wild.
Yeah.
But man, it's so we don't want to just be the doom and gloom channel here talking about this. Yes, we want to address some issues that we see coming, but it's also one of those things like, okay, what do we do in the meantime? How do we prevent it? Because it's
Mhm.
one of those things. Trying to fix it after it's already a problem, because it hasn't become. While we have our issues, it hasn't become a serious problem as of yet.
I don't know,
Um,
man. I'm sure there's a waiting list out there waiting for that first Fembot to drop, boy. That
Well,
4.0.
maybe while he's waiting, he's watching this live. So let's give him some
God, I
advice on
hope
what
so.
on what not to do. Here's my
Yeah.
advice, bro. Don't do it.
Right.
Don't do it. Get your deposit back. Don't do it. Don't open up Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Don't do it. If you've never looked at adult content and done some of these, weird freaky dicky things and all this other stuff like that, don't start doing it.
Right.
Don't start looking. It's like, oh, your boy's like, hey man, check out this VR video, man. It's so realistic. Da 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 da. It, don't do it.
Hmm.
Because it opens you up to so much chaos in your life, bro. It's like, and for some people, once you start, you become addicted to it. A lot of people have addictive personalities, bro. You can end up going down some weird rabbit holes and alleyways and all kinds of weird stuff.
Hmm.
So just don't start with that
Yeah.
stuff. Actually, instead of putting the energy towards those things, actually start putting the energy towards yourself.
Yeah.
If you find yourself in a situation where you're feeling lonely, you don't feel like you're a part of society, or you don't feel emotionally connected to anybody, you don't feel like you're wanted, you don't feel like you're worthy, all these different things like that. You don't feel connected to the world. You are the one who can change that.
Hmm.
If you wait for the world to care about you first, you're gonna be waiting forever.
Right.
You have to start to care about you enough to step out here and start engaging with the world. Start becoming a better version. Learn yourself, figure out what's going on with you, figure out what, I hate the word triggers now because it's so overused. Figure out what those triggers are for you. Because a lot of times when we get into bad habits, there are what is it called? It's hunger, anger. Damn, what is it? There are usually a few keys that we find.
Boredom, loneliness, hunger, anger. There's like one more.
No, I think that was it. I think
Is
it
it?
was,
That's the main
yeah,
four.
it was like hungry, angry, lonely,
Or
bored. I think it was.
gold star for me.
Yeah,
But yeah, no,
yeah.
that's for sure.
Those are when we usually start doing destructive things in our life. That's when we usually start getting into addictions, and that's a lot of times when people, their addictions kick up. Is when you're hungry, when you're upset, you're emotionally, out of balance. When
Hmm.
you're bored, when you're lonely, when you're tired. That's what it
Hmm.
was.
Yeah.
When you're
Yeah.
tired, when
Hmm.
you're exhausted. That's a lot of times when we start making poor choices in our life. When the addictions really start to kick up, when we do things that we normally wouldn't do, when you start texting that girls you got no business texting, all those different things like that is usually in in those instances when you're hungry, when you're when you're lonely, when you're bored, when you're tired,
Yeah.
is when you start doing those things that can destroy your life if you keep doing them over and over and over again, because they become a habit. It's not just good habits we develop, it's also bad habits that you can develop. And you doing that over and over again becomes a habit, and then it becomes a way of life if you do it long enough.
I'll tell you something that here's an easy way to be able to identify those things, because it's like, oh well, how do I know? No, you know exactly when you're tired. I'm sorry, I want to start with when you're hungry. You're always gonna be hungry. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like there's when you wake up, you're hungry. Around lunchtime, you're hungry. At night, you're hungry. Like there's never gonna be a time where you're not hungry, and that's why it's easy to get fast food. You know what I mean? When you're angry, you want to make bad decisions, and if you don't have that emotional balance, you will. You'll either say something or you'll do something stupid. You don't want to do that part. When you're bored, especially, I would say, like for those instances where we talked about people who are bored at work, or they don't have any drive in life, or they don't have any goals. If your hands aren't busy, you're probably going to end up in your pants. So it's like you're not giving yourself the proper, you laugh, but it's true. Like you're not giving yourself the proper stimulation to keep you away from those kind of things. And the other ones have their own examples, but it's like, yeah, man, if you're when you're tired, you make poor decisions. If you're too tired to cook, too tired to set goals for the next day, whatever the situation is, too tired to argue with somebody, like you'd rather just, instead of arguing with a woman, you'd rather just go watch the hub or whatever, your situation is. But it's these everyday triggers that you need to be aware of, like you said, that kind of, okay, if I'm hungry, let me make sure I can go get a salad that I pre-made, a meal prep or whatever, or a smoothie, so that you don't have to go to McDonald's or Sonic or whatever the case might be. Um, I would say that if you're trying to get to a point where you can have that emotional balance and you have the wherewithal to or that willpower, let's say, to establish who you are, where you're going, and what you want those overall goals to be. One big step that you can take is, like you're doing now, watching our content, or maybe checking out our 8 Inner Gates course, where we're going into those 8 principles that will kind of help structure your life to become an honorable man. So you don't have to worry about ever attracting a woman, or making sure that your money is right, or, oh, I don't have self-respect, or I don't know how to be a professional. These are things that we put into this course specifically for these people who are able to realize that, hey, there's an issue that I'm facing, there's addictions that I have, but I don't know how to get out of those things, and maybe I'm too shy or too embarrassed to talk to somebody about them.
Hmm.
To be able to reach out, and maybe I don't have a mentor or a community or even just a big brother to say, hey, how do I move in the correct manner? And that's why you got us.
Yeah, man. Shameless plug, and ain't no shame in our game.
Yeah.
It's the biggest reason why we do the things we do is because not everything, but a lot of things that we've experienced, we realize that either we got the help along the way or we had to stumble our way through it ourselves, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Sometimes overstimulated, as Edmund said, in life,
Like that
and
energy.
had to figure out that, hey, this isn't actually helping me get where I want to be. So, that's the biggest thing. So,
Yeah.
man, yeah, not starting. And if you find yourself lost, find that thing to help you along those paths, man. Because I mean, just like we can use these things for harm, you can use those things for good. Just like people can use the internet to go down some of these dark paths and end up, addicted to the hub and all these different things like that, and some weird stuff. You can also use it to get yourself out of those situations, using the resources. Google and YouTube is the biggest library on the planet, yet we
Right.
use it for dumb stuff most of the time. Why not use it to actually find the people who overcome the situation you find yourself in now, or who prevented themselves from going down that path, and really start changing yourself. Like I said, like with our stuff, or anybody else, it's like, it doesn't have to be ours. We prefer it, but it doesn't have to be.
Right.
Hop on and find those resources, reach out to those people, find groups. One thing I would say is, if you've already started down this path, man, find people who are in that same situation that you're in, but are actively doing things to change.
Yeah.
Because it can be a challenging thing to get over something just by yourself. If you're feeling lonely and do different things like that, one of the best things you can, maybe not easy, one of the best things you can do for yourself is, man, start to surround yourself with, other guys who understand who are going to understand your struggles. May not have been through the same things that you've been through, but can understand what you're, maybe understand what you're going through better than, you just sitting in the dark by yourself, feeling like you're by yourself in this whole world. Nobody else has gone through the same thing that you've gone through.
Hmm.
Nothing is new under the sun.
Right.
People have gone through the same thing and worse than what you've gone through and have made it through. You can too. You just got to do this. You got to take the steps that sometimes people can show you to help you along the way, or walk with somebody else along that path. Don't do
Right.
it by yourself. One of the biggest things there's a reason they have AA programs and all these different programs like that, where people get together and actually help each other out through these situations, can call on each other, be like, hey, bro, I'm struggling right now. I'm really super stressed out and da 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 da. And this is what's happening. Okay, bro, hey, go do this. Or, hey, I'll be there in 5 minutes. We're going to go to the gym. We're going to go do this thing to, keep your mind off that, to overcome this, this situation right now.
Right.
Start surrounding yourself with more people like that, or go to the places where you're going to find those people. If you're not feeling confident and this is an issue for you that, causes a lot of this other stuff, start going to the gym.
Hmm.
It's like, you'd be surprised, man. People feel so insecure about the gym. They feel like they're going to get made up fun of. And some of the best friends I've made have been at the gym
Yeah.
when people who either didn't know what they were doing or when I didn't know what I was doing.
Hmm.
Is like, and people are willing to step up and be like, hey, bro, see you're struggling with that. Why don't you try this? Or why don't you come over here with us? We'll show you how to do this thing. Da 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 da. You will be surprised the connections you can make when you put yourself in those situations to make those connections.
Absolutely. And it's like, we joke about never having to leave your room because, you work from home, you got Netflix and Uber Eats and all that stuff. You know, building your own community of people who can actually uplift you is the same way. You know what I'm saying? That pendulum swings both ways. Is everything that's destructive that will keep you in your room. You can also turn your room into your private sanctum where everything that is going right in your life starts right there. You know what I mean? Where if it's jumping in one of our communities, like the Warbound, which is our free community, or the Legion, which is our paid version, or just checking out our content, or just commenting on our videos because we also comment back. You know, baby steps, man. You don't have to just jump into a thing because we say so. Figure out what's right for you, or who is the right mentor or leader that you need to have. Period. We just happen to have all these things, like wanting to talk about combat and business and professionalism and relationships and all that stuff. But start small. Start with, how do I just understand what my issues are and where I need to go to fix them? Not fix, to heal from the vast amount of influences that we just have around us at all times. And maybe if they have not been the best for you, how do I change that so that I can just start to turn myself into the best version of myself? Because one thing that you said a lot last year that I've been thinking about is like, yeah, we don't outright deserve everything, but we deserve the right to attain those things. You deserve the right to try. You deserve the right to figure out what it is that you want, not what society tells you to have, which is the six-figure job or the Lambo or the 15 bikini models in a grotto in your backyard and all that stuff. What is it that you really want as a person? And what is it that you're trying to achieve with your life? And if it's not much, that's okay. But understand that you can do more. You are fully capable of going out and getting whatever the fuck you want in this world, period.
Mhm.
But just make sure that you have the right influences, man,
Yeah.
because you know the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah, man. I think what you're saying was, I usually say you don't have the right to anything in this life. It's like you say nobody owes you anything,
Hmm.
but you have the opportunity to get
Yeah.
everything you want out
Right.
of this life. It's like, but nobody owes you understanding, and nobody owes you anything.
Yeah.
But you have the opportunity to get all of the things you want out of life, just like you were
Hmm.
saying.
Yeah.
You have the opportunity to become the man you want to be. But if you don't, it's because you, at the end
Right.
of the day, because at a certain point, because it goes from being, the world has done this to me, and yeah, shit happens to everybody. It does. It's like we're all going to go through things. Some people go through this harder things than others, but at a certain point, it becomes a choice. Then, if you decide,
Hmm.
and you said something in one of our last in a podcast that we just put up, that some people sit in their mistakes longer than it would take them to change it.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, man, it's huge, man. Because when I saw that clip, I actually forgot I said that. and then it hit the same way it hit me the first time, because we do like, oh man, I didn't finish school, or I let this relationship go to shit, or my relationship with my kids aren't that great. Okay, well, as long as you're breathing and they're breathing, or whatever the situation is, you have an opportunity to change your perspective and ultimately change the outcome of what it is. Because doesn't it become a much more beautiful story when you overcome the issue instead of dying by it?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If something bad happens to, if every story started with, once upon a time this thing happened and then something went bad and that was the end of the story, like, you would hate stories. You know what I mean? Like, why you wouldn't follow people like Tony Robbins or Oprah or whoever the fuck if they weren't turning whatever their bad circumstances are into something that you benefit from? Because that's the chain, man. You go through something, you grow from it, you become an expert in how to make sure that that never happens again, and you give it to the next guy so he doesn't fall in the same landmine or in the same hole or whatever happens, and then hopefully he passes that on to the next guy or gal.
Yeah,
But
man.
it's impossible to change if you are not first willing to do so.
Yeah, I've never met a good man with an easy life. I've yet to meet a good, strong man who just lived an easy life and nothing ever happened to him.
Right.
Haven't met him,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. So, yeah, man. So to bring this home, man, it's been an interesting conversation, man. Digging into this, I don't think, like I said, when I saw that, I was like, man, this is something we got to talk about.
Yeah.
This is something, and it sounded kind of goofy at the beginning, but it was one of those things that as we started talking deeper about it, it's like this could actually be a real issue moving forward. It's like, how do we get ahead of this thing
Hmm.
as men and really start, shifting things so that it becomes, if it's gonna be an issue, which it's probably still gonna be, let's just be real about it.
For
It'll
sure.
be less of an issue for less of us.
Yeah, yeah, and that's all we're really looking for, man. Because like I'm understanding now, man. Everything is a fraction of a fraction as far as like the actual engagement that you get on any piece of property. For there will be millions who probably invest in this type of technology, and there will be people on the planet who have never heard of what you're talking about. You know what I mean? It will have never seen or heard of these types of these things, but we hope that what we're saying minimizes the effect it has on you as the
Hmm.
individual, because we don't want you to have to be, you know, we don't want you to have to go through these types of issues and not be able to make genuine human connections, or get the kind of money that you're looking for, or be the man that you say that you want to be, because you're not moving as if. But if you are stuck in all of these distractions and illusions and fantasies, you'll never even find out what that ultimate thing that you want is. You don't even know what you want, So how can you go
Hmm.
attain it? Figure out what you want first, and don't get caught up in all the illusions, man. That's ultimately what we're trying to do here.
Yeah. Don't be that sticky guy in the basement.
That's gross.
No, but seriously, man,
Yeah,
it's
for real, because it's always your mom's basement. You notice how, like, when they say, like, oh, it's the haters and all that stuff, they immediately go to, oh, it's the fat guy in his mom's basement watching porn all the time, smelling like crusty socks and all that shit. Like, there's a reason why that's the enemy. that's the that's the enemy that is within you, that is itching to come out. And once you just put down your goals and aspirations and the strength that you know that you are capable of, that's the guy you're going to end up as.
yeah, yeah, man. It's we have an opportunity as men, to really tap into something else, and we I think we talked about it, man. It's like the bar. I hate to say it, the bar's low right
Yeah,
now, bro.
yeah.
The bar's low right now for no matter, despite what you hear about, what it means to be a real man and all this and be a high value man and blah 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 alpha and all this other stuff. Dude, the bar is set lower than I've ever seen it before. As
Hmm.
far as if you're a guy who just starts to get his shit together on some
Just a
base
little bit.
level,
Just a little bit.
starts to get his stuff together in his money, takes care of his body, presents himself respectfully, comes with honor and respect when he's dealing with people and his dealings with the world. Doesn't take no shit from nobody. Is a capable, dangerous man. Is
Hmm.
capable doing hard things, and just to put it out there, is capable of required violence at times. Is like, you just do those things,
Hmm.
You're ahead of probably at this point, man, probably I'd say 80% of the population, at
For sure.
least.
For sure.
If
I
you
like
just if you just get your shit together in those ways.
for sure. I like something that Dan Pena said back when I stopped listening to him for a good reason. But one really good thing that he had said was like, yeah, the same thing that you're hitting on is that barrier of entry being so low is that it's like taking candy from a baby. If all you do is try to build some type of infrastructure for yourself, a business, and maintain some minor level of discipline, you're
Hmm.
so far ahead of so much of this world, and it's ridiculous. So like these high achievers, the billionaires, millionaires, and all that stuff, you don't even have to do that. But it's just the fact that if you are trying to get yourself together on any level, the world will start to treat you different.
Hmm.
And that's what ultimately what you want. Everything that you want is on the other side of your decision on if I'm really dedicated to this thing or not.
Yeah,
you know so let us help you figure out what it is that you need to dedicate yourself to, whatever that is that needs to be your mission, so that you cannot even imagine yourself being one of these other individuals, the common man, or the guy in the basement, whatever you want to call it.
hmm,
Then let us help you do that, because we're just trying to do the same thing. We're just little by little, inch by inch, day by day, trying to be the best version of ourselves.
yeah, definitely. And follow us on this journey of building our Fembot empire.
If this doesn't work out, I might need to get into the tech industry. But but man, because it
No, but
seems to
seriously
be a
though.
booming industry. So
Anyway, well, tell them where they can find us, Edmund.
they can find us on especially YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. TikTok seems to be back. We're on X, anywhere where podcasts are had, Apple Music, YouTube podcasts as well, Spotify. We're building out our platform. We're making sure that we're bringing you guys quality content, more information or more stuff like this. Definitely shout out to everybody on our YouTube subscriber count. We're now at like 680, almost 676, something like that. We're coming up on 680. We see you guys. We love that you
Mhm.
guys are giving us the energy that you guys are giving us, allowing us to give you content that pertains to you, whether it's about martial arts or personal development, business development, whatever that is. We're glad that you guys are here. Interact with us more. Comments, like, subscribe, share with your buddies. Join our free community, the Warbound, and also catch our paid community with the Legion, where we go even deeper into things like this and figuring out, how can we just build the strongest tribe possible.
Definitely, man. Definitely. And definitely, you know, for those who aren't subscribed who are watching this, man, the cost of entry for all of this is hitting that subscribe button. It is free. It doesn't cost you anything, bro.
Hmm.
Is that you can save the money for your rope for your Fembot. Is that all you gotta do is hit that subscribe button. We don't charge you for that. Not
Yeah,
yet.
yeah,
So anyway, but hit that subscribe button, man, because we're trying to hit that 1,000 subscribers within in the next 90 before the next 90 days is out.
yeah.
So that's our goal is to hit that first 1,000 subscribers and keep it pushing from there. Keep bringing this good content. Keep trying to build honorable men in society because it is definitely needed in society today. Is to
Hmm.
have honorable, capable, dangerous men because
Hmm.
you much rather be a warrior in a garden.
Then a garden in the war. Check
Take
you
it
guys
easy,
next
guys.
time.
See you next
Peace.
time.